The Bold and the Beautiful, Monday, September 8th, Secrets, Confrontations, and Emotional Collapse. Monday's episode of The Bold and the Beautiful is a storm of secrets, emotional warfare, and brutal confrontations. The tangled webs of obsession, betrayal, and lies that stretch across the Forrester, Logan, and Spencer families are now tightening, choking the characters who've kept them hidden for too long. The September 8th episode brings the return of Will Spencer in a way we didn't expect. Thomas Forrester spiraling into a dangerous mental state, Luna Nozawa caught in a trap of her own making, and Brooke Logan pushed once again to the edge by a man who refuses to let go of old grudges. Thomas Forrester's collision course. Thomas Forrester has long struggled to keep his darker impulses under control, and on Monday, it's clear he's slipping. This time, his obsession isn't romantic, it's personal, and it's about family. Rather than chasing a woman as he has in the past, Thomas is now singularly focused on forcing Ridge Forrester and Taylor Hayes back together. He's convinced himself that their reunion is not only inevitable but essential, and he will destroy anyone who stands in his way. His first target? Brooke Logan. Brooke has always had a complicated relationship with Thomas, and today, things escalate dangerously. Thomas storms into Brooke's home unannounced, face flushed with anger and eyes blazing with resentment. He doesn't mince words, blames her for the collapse of his family and for standing between his parents. Though Brooke attempts to calm him, reiterating that she only wants what's best for Ridge and for Thomas himself, her words fall on deaf ears. Thomas is unrelenting. He warns her to stay out of Ridge's life again. But this time it's different. This isn't just a son pleading for his parents' love. This is a man who has reverted to old, manipulative tendencies, using guilt and intimidation to enforce his vision of a perfect family. What's alarming isn't just what he says, it's the conviction with which he says it. His tone, his stance, the fire in his eyes, it's all too familiar. Brooke recognizes it, and the fear creeps into her expression. She's seen Thomas like this before, and she knows that when he becomes this fixated, people get hurt. Taylor snaps back as if Thomas spiraling weren't enough. Taylor Hayes is pushed to her emotional brink. Ridge Forrester, who has once again broken her heart, tells her he can't go through with their wedding. Just hours earlier, they were discussing dates. They were planning a future. And now, he's pulling away again. Taylor's reaction is not quiet heartbreak, it's rage. She demands to know if it's because of Brooke. And when Ridge confirms that it has something to do with his time in Italy where he saved Brooke's life, she erupts. Taylor refuses to believe that Ridge is still caught between her and Brooke after everything they've been through. She thought this time was different. She thought he chose her. She can't accept another cycle of deception and false hope. The pressure from Eric Forrester and other family members urging Ridge to do the right thing only makes matters worse. Taylor feels like a pawn in a game that Ridge has always controlled. She accuses him of being spineless, of being unable to commit to anything except his own indecision. But even more than anger, Taylor is hurt deeply, irrevocably. And that hurt simmers under every word she says. LAM and Will Spencer's mission elsewhere in Los Angeles. Will Spencer takes center stage in a storyline that has been bubbling for weeks beneath the surface. Will isn't just confused, it's haunted. The night in question is a blur. The mysterious girl, the masked identity, the strange, inexplicable behavior after just one drink. Something isn't adding up, and Will needs answers. Liam Spencer, who's been preoccupied with his own drama, is pulled into Will's orbit when his younger brother confesses just how unsettling the whole encounter was. Will shows Liam a strange burner phone, something he shouldn't even have. He explains how it's connected to the girl, how her photo keeps popping into his mind, and how her messages feel like they're meant to taunt him. Liam, sensing something bigger is at play, offers to help. He digs through Will's phone, uses GPS tools to trace the signal, and finally gets a pinged address. Will is laser focused. He wants the truth. He wants to look this girl in the eye and find out what really happened. He wants to know whether he was drugged, manipulated, or something worse. Luna's shameful secret, that girl, of course, is Luna Nozawa. Luna is cornered. She knows Will is getting close. She knows the secret she's keeping won't stay buried for much longer. Still, she tries to keep up the illusion. She sends Will a cryptic photo of the Electra Forrester mask she wore that night and teases him, telling him it's their little secret, but she's unraveling. Her texts are erratic, her emotions on edge. She knows that what she did intentionally or not crossed a line. Will was vulnerable, and she took advantage of that moment for reasons even she's struggling to justify. And now, with Will closing in, she can feel her entire world slipping through her fingers. As the episode races toward its climax, Will shows up at the address Liam gave him. It's Lee Finnegan's apartment. Luna is inside. Will doesn't knock, walks in. Lee and Sheila Carter Sharp are nowhere to be found. It's just him and Luna. Well, almost. Luna is hiding in the bathroom, heart pounding, panic setting in. Will's voice echoes through the apartment, calling her out. "I know you're in there," he says. "I'm not leaving until we talk." Luna closes her eyes. This is the moment she's been dreading. No escape back at the Forrester mansion. Thomas returns again, this time not just to confront Brooke, but to demand action. He tells Ridge it's time to stop stalling. He blames Ridge's hesitation on Brooke and insists that Taylor is the right choice. His voice cracks with emotion as he recounts every time their family was broken apart, though every time it was because of Brooke. Ridge is stunned by Thomas's intensity and is forced to ask the question, is this really about love or control? But Thomas doesn't answer. Instead, he storms out. At the same time, Taylor is spiraling. She can't process Ridge's betrayal. She blames herself for believing in him again. And in a fit of desperation, she makes a call to someone we don't hear. Her face is grim. Whoever she's calling, she's ready to do something drastic. Meanwhile, Will stand outside the bathroom door, voice softer now. "Please," he says. "I just want the truth." And Luna, trembling, reaches for the handle. Consequences Coming Monday's episode ends on a cliffhanger. 3 lives are about to change: Will, Luna, and Thomas. One is searching for answers, one is hiding a shameful truth, and the other is slipping into dangerous territory again. And surrounding them are the echoes of failed love, broken families, and the desperate need for control. Ridge is once again the man at the center of a storm he doesn't know how to contain. Brooke is being dragged into old battles she thought were over. Taylor is on the edge. And Luna, whatever her reasons, will have to face the consequences of what she's done. This isn't just another day in the bold and the beautiful. This is the beginning of a reckoning. Because secrets always find their way out. And when they do, they don't just cause ripples, they destroy everything in their path. More lies are ready to explode. And as we move beyond Monday, nothing in Los Angeles will be the same. The bold and the beautiful. Ridge's breaking point, the fallout of love, power, and legacy. Ridge Forrester is a man caught in the teeth of a storm of his own making. The episode unravels like a taut string pulled too tight, every moment threatening to snap. His confession to Taylor that he can't marry her doesn't land gently, it explodes. It's not just the collapse of a wedding date. It's the collapse of trust, of promises made and broken, again and again. Taylor Hayes doesn't fall apart quietly. Her pain, visible and raw, pulses through every glance, every tremble in her voice. She gave Ridge everything again. And again, he's walking away. But Ridge doesn't just backtrack. He implodes. With Eric's whispers in one ear and Thomas's unrelenting rage in the other, Ridge isn't just a man reconsidering a wedding. He's a man buried under decades of guilt, loyalty, and emotional blackmail. Eric, ever the manipulator beneath the patriarchal charm, pressures Ridge with veiled nostalgia, pushing the idea that Ridge's true place, his legacy, his destiny is with Brooke. Eric's voice carries weight. It always has. He doesn't need to shout. He just leans in with a certain look, a certain phrase, and Ridge wavers. And then there's Thomas. Thomas Forrester isn't a man making peace with the past. He's charging at it, fists clenched, convinced the world owes him restitution. His fury toward Brooke is more than misplaced, it's combustible. He confronts her not like a man defending his family, but like someone trying to rewrite history with threats. Thomas doesn't ask. He demands. He tells Brooke, with chilling certainty, to stay out of Ridge and Taylor's lives. But Brooke, seasoned in the wars of the Forrester family, doesn't flinch. She doesn't bend. She's seen this version of Thomas before, and her silence in the face of his rage speaks louder than any warning she could give. Steffy Forrester, meanwhile, is trapped in the crossfire. She's the bridge between Taylor's heartbreak and Ridge's indecision, torn between her loyalty to her mother and her understanding of who her father really is. She watches Taylor unravel, sees the toll of Ridge's indecision, and yet she can't force her father to love someone if his heart has wandered elsewhere. Steffy pleads for clarity not just for Taylor's sake, but for Douglas, for Thomas, for the entire family teetering on the edge of another generational collapse. Katie Logan is the outside voice of reason, though even she isn't sure where the truth ends and manipulation begins. Watching from the periphery, she sees Ridge not as the confident leader of Forrester Creations, but as a man being pulled like a marionette between the forces of family obligation and romantic nostalgia. She wonders aloud to Donna, to Brooke, if Ridge is truly making decisions for himself or if he's been so buried under years of emotional debt that he no longer knows what he wants. The pressure cooker finally explodes when Ridge is forced to speak publicly about the future of Douglas and his position with Taylor. It's not just a personal decision anymore, it's business, family, and reputation all knotted into one impossible choice. Ridge stands before the board at Forrester Creations, with Thomas glaring at him like a hawk, Steffy watching with bated breath, and Brooke and Taylor flanking the sidelines like ghosts of every love triangle that's ever haunted these halls. He begins by talking about Douglas, about responsibility, about providing a stable home. But then his voice falters. The room is silent, waiting for him to continue. He shifts to Taylor, to their bond, their history. He calls her his rock, his past, and a woman he respects. And then, just when everyone expects the reconciliation to take shape, Ridge swerves. He admits the truth. He doesn't know if he's the same man he was. He doesn't know if the destiny everyone talks about fairytale ending with Taylor, the clean restart, is even real anymore. He looks directly at Thomas and says, wanting something doesn't make it right. Then he turns to Taylor. I'm not walking away because I don't care. I'm walking away because I do. The room goes cold. Thomas looks like he's been punched in the chest. Taylor goes pale. Brooke's eyes widen, but she says nothing. Steffy looks down, tears in her eyes, as if the final nail in the coffin of her parents' reconciliation has just been driven in. But Ridge isn't finished. He clarifies that while he will always co-parent with Taylor, always respect her, he can't lie to her anymore. He doesn't want a marriage built on obligation, on fear of repeating the past. He needs to be honest for once. He doesn't name Brooke, but the implication is clear. His heart is elsewhere, and no amount of pressure from Eric, Thomas, or even himself can force it back to Taylor. In the aftermath, Taylor leaves without a word. Thomas slams the door so hard the glass rattles. Steffy collapses into a chair, numb. And Ridge. He walks out alone, no destination in sight, but finally without the weight of pretending. Back in her home, Brooke receives a call. It's not Ridge, it's Steffy. She tells Brooke that Ridge has made his choice, but whether that choice includes Brooke isn't clear. Brooke stares at the phone, torn between hope and dread. She's won before, but at what cost? And in the background, Eric watches the pieces shift. He doesn't smile. He doesn't speak. He simply observes, calculating. Because in this family, love isn't just emotion, it's strategy. And the game isn't over yet. Next, the fallout will settle into every crack in the Forrester empire. Douglas will ask questions. Thomas will seek revenge. Taylor will fight for dignity. And Ridge. Ridge will finally have to prove whether the man he claims to be is strong enough to stand on his own or doomed to fall back into the arms of a woman who's loved him through every lie, betrayal, and false start. This is the bold and the beautiful. No one gets to walk away clean.